Paparating na sa UAPStation.
All aboard the UAPSA Train.
Choo-choo! So, welcome to the first ever podcast of UAPSA Mapúa, which is the UAPStation. And again, I'm Reinhardt.
And I'm Sean, and we will be your hosts for today.
And today, pag-uusapan natin is about inspiration. The impact of inspiration. So, gaya nga nasabi ko last time, bigyan natin ang magiging guest natin for today. So, let me introduce to you the rising star in the architectural field who graduated as cum laude and silver medalist at Mapúa University. He won numerous awards including the 𝗬𝗏 Gold Award, and he is currently the president of UAPSA Manila Listrado and a junior architect at PDP Plus Architects. So, let's welcome our future architect, Mr. Aldrich.
Hi guys! So, wow, ang dami talagang mga achievements si Kuya Aldrich. So, next we would like to introduce someone who graduated from UP Diliman, College for Architecture class 1990. And she also graduated with honors from the Asian Institute of Management in 2000 for her master's degree. She is a master planner who advocates for sustainable design in our country. She's not just a leader in design, but also an advocate for women in architecture. Some of her projects includes Drift Beach Club in Dumaguete, Saldaña in El Nido, and the award-winning Diamond Tower in the Mausoleum. Tapos, she's in every magazine and at every architecture convention. So let's give a warm welcome to the owner and CEO of PDP Architects, Ms. Cathy Saldaña.
Hello everyone! Nice to be here. So, thank you po for accepting our invitation. Even though alam ko lang, miss na busy po kayo these days. And, kamusta naman po kayo ngayon? And ano po mga projects po nagawa?
We're very busy right now because not only are we wrapping up for a lot of projects as the year ends, but we're also looking forward to some new projects for 2025. We're also charting new directions that architects can do, so that we're not simply doing what we do, designing, but also doing many other tasks and entering into other industries and businesses that are related to architecture and design.
So, what kind of industries are you venturing out towards?
We are leaning towards sustainability, both the certification aspect of it and finding ways to get involved in carbon trading, carbon management, sustainable design, focusing purely on how we can deliver for the environment as architects. You see, as architects, we're always stereotyped. We produce the building drawings. We produce all the documents necessary to be able to build a structure. But because of our skills and our educational training, there are so many other facets of the building industry, the environmental industry, as well as construction, product development, and the real estate sector that we architects can enter into. It's very broad. We don't realize it. And then we only get to understand how well our training is because we are trained to be very analytical. We are so process-oriented. So that when we enter into these new industries, we're not just designing, but we're involved in how the environment will prosper. And being architects trained to preserve the environment alongside good design becomes a new avenue for us to create a different role.
Right. So it's nice to hear what PDD looks like now. But can we ask on how it all started? Like, architect in your early days, what inspires you take architecture? Let's talk about you taking architecture course.
So when I was in high school, grade school, I was always the class artist, like most of you. You would be the one to task to create, ideate. Back when you were in high school, you were perhaps the one tasked to develop and to come up with a nice design for the bulletin board, or to be the class artist. You would make a poster, etc. And drawing and being creative was very easy for you, for us, for me. And so that kind of identity was so strong. And henceforth, I knew that I could create, I could ideate, I could develop art. And yet, I loved geometry. I enjoyed physics. And that balance of art and science was so important for us to think, do I just want to be an artist or a fashion designer? No. You could come up with a course that integrates both art and science. And architecture became the very perfect course and path to take. I was also influenced because my father was a top official of the National Housing Authority. He was involved in public housing. And I could see what they were doing, and I said to myself, I could create something better than that. And be able to look at ways to solve problems that architecture can be the solution for. So that was the dream. And then I applied in UP Diliman, which was very close to us, and got accepted. And I enjoyed the whole course. I became a student leader when I was in UP, College of Architecture. But I'm so happy to interact with all of you. I never say no to students because it's important for me not just to inspire, but to help give you the voice. That it's okay. Sometimes you're struggling, sometimes you're doubting. We all went through that. But just carry on. Just forge on. It's a rather difficult course. It's not an easy program. It's also not an easy degree to finish. And yet, you will realize that the training that you have could really be used for many other aspects of work beyond just pure design. And so I forged on, I carried on. I was a student leader, graduated. I was not anymore asked to apply. The dean of the UP College of Architecture back then, Dean 𝗬𝗺𝗻𝗄 𝗜𝗺, is one of the fathers of tropical design in the Philippines. He was the one who inspired Bobby Manyosa. His books became the basis for a lot of tropical design books. And he told me, don't work anywhere else. Work with me. It was there where I learned planning. It was there also where I learned design. It was also there where I got exposed to construction. And in doing so, I was able to see the different fields which we architects could be part of. And then, 1991, big earthquake and catastrophe came. And I was working on a big project, and one of the first tasks for me was to check my job site. Was there any liquefaction? Was there any crack in all the concrete work? So it was challenging. But then also you see that the earth, the environment has such a big impact on our work. And so back then, 1991, the word sustainability wasn't even commonly used yet. SDG goals were not crafted by the UN yet. And sustainable design, biophilic design, they were all not concepts yet. But then again, after a huge earthquake, you realize that the marriage of the environment with architecture and design is so important in the way we think and is so vital in how we plan. And that got embedded in my system. I knew years down the road, that's where we would go. Anything and everything we do should be all about sustainability. Anything and everything we do for design should be related to nurturing the environment, reducing waste, finding ways to make things work so that we build with the earth, not against it. And we grew the company. There was a time I had a bigger company with other business partners, but then I felt that there was no soul anymore in how that was being approached. A company of 300 architects. It was very hard. And so I decided to restart again. And now we're about 70, 75, and it's a pretty good number. Maybe we'll grow to 100, but that would be it. And then we make sure that I'm still involved in every aspect of design. and that we're nurturing people because the journey for me is not just building buildings, it's building people. That's the whole goal. And whenever we make money, our goal is not just for ourselves, the owners, the principal, the associates, it should be for everybody.
Ang ganda ng business idea yung build for, not for people, people.
Yes.
It's sa mga nagpapasala ng mga sustainability and today ang hawak this is it's common these days to do architecture about sustainability which baka din is not so much.
Yes.
So, how about the Mapúa? Can you share your experience during
So during my early stage in architecture, on why I chose architecture, it traces back during my elementary days. I resonate so much with architect Cathy as well because I was discovered at an early age in terms of creativity. I was being chosen to compete for poster making competitions, drawing competitions, paintings, murals. And then one time I asked my mom, who is a public school teacher, Ma, ano yung pwedeng i-take na course pag magaling mag-drawing, pag creative, and then saan ako pwedeng mag-school? And then my mom recommended, gusto mo fine arts or pwede rin naman architecture. But then ever since I was young, I have this fascination with buildings, with structures that are not just beautiful in a way, pero they are purposeful and very functional for people. So I then chose architecture, and then I pursued my creative side during my early days, during my high school, senior high school, and then I got here in Mapúa. So ever since I was a kid, this is already my dream school, not just because it's a good school for architecture and engineering, but also because it is where architecture course started in the Philippines, knowing that our very founder, 𝗬𝗵𝗲 𝗜𝗺 is the first registered architect in the country. So, yun yung architecture journey for me.
So, during your stay here in Mapúa as a college student, what would you say were your ups and downs?
Ups and downs, marami syempre since kami yung batch na inabutan din ang pandemic in the middle of the years. Pero I would say that I'm very grateful for it kasi I still experience manual drafting na face-to-face because during my whole first year, yun yung before pandemic. And then during my second to around third year, that was when the pandemic happened. But then I still learned a lot because this school coped faster than any other universities in the Philippines, given that we have platforms for online, and then our professors were very, very hands-on then and very knowledgeable na rin in terms of technology on how to manage online classes. And then for my ups and downs, of course, I want to highlight those times na sumali ako ng mga competitions. But before all of that, I would say there was also a lot of struggles, sleepless nights, and also preparation. And I would say if I would sum it all up together, I would say that it is not just by luck, but yung definition ko kasi ng luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I prepared so much for it, and then when the time comes, that's when I earned the fruits of my labor.
So ikaw naman, how was your architectural journey?
Just like them. Elementary days, high school days, they were an artist, but not like me. I'm not good at drawing. Actually, my drawing is just taga-hukay na lupa. I'm okay with that, but I just leveled it up when I came to high school. Bakit nga ba taga-hukay na lupa? But I can become architect or engineer like that. And then when I take drafting subject, I have drafting subject in high school, and we do mga manual drawings. And when I did it, it's hard, but I like it. Gusto ko yung ginagawa ko sa I start, but I love it. Parang ganun yung feeling ko noon. So, that's when I decided that I will do architecture. Ano, ba't you? Yeah.
So, similar lang to you, hindi ako ganun ka-creative ng bata ko. So, like, doon talaga ako nahihirapan. But then, siguro around grade 7, kasi same din with Clear Record, na TLE, tas drafting. And doon ako parang, doon ko naisip parang, this is something I want to do. Like, manual drafting. Pero ngayon, ayoko na. Ayoko na. So, ayun.
Mga lang. But at least nagka, yung mga digital cover.
Yeah.
So,
At least, technology and advance.
yun po. Kaya may I ask you, how is the transition from manual drawing back then to digital?
It's very interesting. I remember working on AutoCAD version 1 and then also using digitizing points like a stylus pen to be able to put the slopes of a property. Back then, it was called the ULO estate. Now you will recognize it as Nuvali, Ayala Land West Grove, all of that Laguna properties which were owned by the ULO family. So we were digitizing it in a plan. It was all manual. It was interesting to watch it. It was also interesting because we were being taught AutoCAD. And then to be able to let go of your pen and your ink and your pencil and your eraser and to shift everything to computer was so interesting. It was slow, but it was fascinating. Wow! Whenever there was a client revision for a drawing, we don't need to throw away the paper. All we need to do is go into our computer and then just delete and revise and erase on the computer. It was fascinating back then. But now it's normal, right?
Yeah.
So much so that even your school projects are all digitized. But I guess what you should always learn is that I know that the younger generation now thinks as they draw using CAD or Revit. What you should also never lose is that human side of creativity because you're always thinking for people. And that it's not so much the lines that you're drawing on your computer, but is this really a comfortable size of a bathroom? Is this a proper walkway? Am I positioning the door correctly? So much so that you are looking at your drawing, imagining yourself in it. Because back then, when you were drawing with a pencil and with a pen, it was deliberate. It was slow. It was so much thinking because you were already analyzing. But now, you're digitizing, you're so fast. Never lose sight that you are doing it not to produce your lines and your layers, but that you are drawing for a human being. So that's where technology meets humanism.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of times na we tend to overlook yung mga simple bagay. Kahit yung mga, let's say, yung mga spaces na corridors, hallways, ganun. So, I was just curious something about what is something that you miss about Manobra?
I love the swish of the lines. I love the way we render with, back then we call it the yoken pens and watercolor, and how beautiful the sky looks when you washed it and then tap it with a little cotton or tissue. And then it looks like a painting. So it's so soft compared to an actual digital rendering now. And then, what else do you miss? You also miss the smell of paper and ink put together. But I don't miss the smudges of ink on my hands and the many times that you have to realign your T-square. But I guess the softness of it and the textures where you have so much control, you're not relying on a library, and you kind of also create your own style. But then again, now with AI and technology, there are many ways for you to master it. So much so that it's back to being in control, not anymore the program that controls.
Nothing beats the feeling when you are thinking of a concept and you're using pen and paper.
Yeah. Kasi ang dali lang i-sketch out like nasa bigger ka na. Yeah. So, so since we are medyo in the future, we would like
yes.
yeah. So we would just say to ask, what would you give your younger self? Like any advice?
I would tell my younger self that don't worry, in the future, there will be a better way to do this. Don't worry, in the future, there will be a faster way to do this. Just carry on, just persevere. And don't worry, in the future, you do not need to save all those roles and blueprints because there will be a digital file in one small disk or etc. So I wish I could tell my younger person that you need not cry over water spilling on all the plans that were printed because there's a digital format anyway.
So, Kuya Alvin, may question ulit ako. So, di ba, mabuhan ka, and grabe, kung laudan, right? So, paano ka na-manage yung workload?
In terms of managing workload, syempre, during that time when I was a student here, I am also doing organization. So I am an officer of the Arvin Student Council, and then I also do competitions on the side, and then managing my tasks and plates as well. So in terms of managing all of that, syempre, I would prioritize what would I need to finish first. Kasi it's all about knowing your priorities. Siyempre, hindi naman pwedeng you will drown yourself with all of those deadlines. Kasi you will get burnout eh. You have to make a balance. So, you have to have like a work-life balance. So, I also go out with my friends kapag may time. And then, I also, in such a way when I'm doing org works, I'm also socializing. So, I'm using that as an opportunity, not just to work as a student, but also to bond with my fellow batchmates and fellow schoolmates. Not just my batchmates, but also the younger batches. And then, in terms of all of that, so namamanage ko siya. I always have this parang pin board on my laptop, and then nililist down ko isa-isa yung mga task ko for the week or for the day. And then dun kapag nakikita ko kasi siya nagko-cross out, dun ako nasa-satisfy na okay, may natapos na akong ganyan. So I would know what to do next. Kaysa yung ang dami mong inisip na task in line for you, pero hindi mo alam kung paano siya ma-organize and kung ano yung sunod mong gagawin.
Well, Aldrich, I'm just curious. You have been in a lot of competitions, but what makes you participate in the competitions in first place?
So, as for me kasi, yung competitions, it's not just about the prize money or the exposure that you will gain from that competition. Pero for me, it's a profound sense of ownership in your story. So, kasi when I was doing competitions, I am not just able to share my design, but I was also able to share my story, not just locally, but internationally. Kasi, yung design mo, syempre, it's a product of a student. Pero yung design mo that comes with all of your thoughts and all of your hard work, that makes it as a whole story that you could transcend to like entire generations of future architects.
Sabi nga ako, yung projector, something, joke lang.
So, ano na po ba yung mga nasunod yung architectural competitions po?
So, nasalihan kong architectural competitions is 3 competitions in the same year. So, that was, the first one was the Projeto 2022. And then, the next one was IDA 2022. And then, Archinex 2023. And then, those competitions, so nauna si Projeto. And then, I have this same entry that I call Bakawan. And then, while I was waiting for the result of the competition, nag-undergo na kami ng presentation. And then, nag-announce si Aida. So, I passed the same output for that competition. And then, for Aida, I was asked to present as one of the top 10. And then, the week after, nagkaroon ng awarding. And I was hailed as the gold winner of Aida 2022. And that's when I met Architect Cathy because
Right.
she's my chair judge for that competition.
That's correct.
And the chair judge trains the gold winner from the Philippines to be sent out to the international competition. And then, ayun, afterwards, that's the Archinex. And then that's the full rest of it.
So, what was your first impression naman po sa work ni
It was very interesting. So I was the chairman of the Asia Young Designers Awards. This is an international competition by Nippon Paints. And I think it's a great competition. Not just here in the Philippines, you see, but it's also in Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, right? So it's Asia. And then it was my responsibility to pick a winner for our country. And I really handpicked Aldrich because I saw how unique his thought process was. I also understood his design thinking, and right away, I figured this guy could be a good architect. And as the judge chairman, I was mentoring him one-on-one. And yet, I was making sure of his balance, that he was still a student, and that he wouldn't let go of his academic responsibilities. And yet, I would be there. So, we would text each other, are you ready? Shall I check your work? No, I'm studying for an exam or I'm finishing a plate, right? Okay, I'm game with this. Let's meet online at 9:30 p.m. or sometimes even 10 p.m. But I was honing him because I wanted him to become world class. Even the way he laid it out, or what you call the cartooning set, which is the way you're putting drawings on a sheet of paper. That's the international term for it. And I also worked, with big names on some collaboration projects with 𝗬𝗏, Gensler. I worked with Adrian Smith-Gordon-Gill, running a studio for them in the Philippines because we are running an outsourced company. So I said to myself, everything that I learned, I want to teach Aldrich. And so that's where our journey came. Like a mentor-mentee, like a second mother-son. And then later on, let's go to Singapore. Let's travel. And then we have other targets for travel because travel is so educational for architects. And then I told him, Aldrich, as an architect, it's not just important that you're behind your computer. You have to come with me to events. You have to learn business development. You have to be exposed to clients. You have to be so confident that you walk up the stage with me. And so he did. I was one of the board of judges for the Moody Real Estate Outlook Awards. I asked Aldrich to come with me. And lo and behold, he became the superstar of the night because he won Best Dress for that event. And he won an item that's almost 100,000 pesos in value. And that's because he's an architect working with me. And to me, it's important that I expose him to people, that he also networks, that he meets people, because growth is not just facing your computer. Growth has to be personal, aside from professional. And when I mentor our architects, I select them to rise, to go up. Because to me, my dictum in being a mentor is, I build people up. I don't want to be the one here and everyone's below me. No, I want everyone to rise. That's my goal. And it was so important to me. And I was so proud when he went up on stage. Because I could see that one of the best things that I could be is to also let other people grow. So, travel, exposure, fine dining, meeting clients, meeting suppliers, going to events, getting recognized. And being recognized, and also recognizing good design, good food, good fashion, good people, good projects, good options, great travel, great opportunities. And all of that could be balanced so that the architect would really be able to grow, not just as a professional, but also as a person. And I've been seeing that already in Aldrich.
Yeah, Aldrich, how did you end up choosing Architect Cathy or the PDD Architects? Like, they are, when you won the Architect Gold Award, I know that there are lots of architects companies that are trying to hire you.
Yes.
Win you, yes. So, why Architect?
Because knowing that we've had several sessions of mentorship, and then I see that she's very hands-on in terms of not just mentoring me, but I see that fire that she wants me to grow, not just as an architect, as she said, but also as a holistic individual. Because I'm really inspired in that sense na hindi kami binabox into a certain archetype. We are being trained to be someone who is a good leader. That in the future we could lead a lot of people and inspire so many. And after I graduated, of course, I'm really sure na I would choose PDP Architecture as my company to grow with, and Architect Cathy as my mentor, because I want to extend that kind of mentorship. And for me, it's not just about the mentorship, it's also about the concern for me as an individual and for me as a person.
I agree on very hands-on. Since when I went to PDP, when I met Architect Cathy, that's my first impression. Like, wow, she's very hands-on. Nilalapitan niya yung mga architects niya, and kinakamusta niya kung anong projects or kung ano yung ginagawa, updates, and ayun pa yung first impression ko kay Architect Cathy. And also, when she talked to us, she said that PDP Architects is not, it's not like, unlike other companies that they are na papikit lang ka ng kape, utusin ka, and yung gagawin ka ng pag-operator. She said that, I remember that she said, when we are the company that we will, push you through the ocean with sharks, and we won't help you, we will let you swim on the beach, ganun po. So that's why I chose back then PDP Plus Architecture. I want to be challenged. I want to be here. I want to develop my architecture career. And also, we're talking about PDP Plus Architecture. Can we ask how it started?
Well, so from that journey, from my younger days as an architect, it was because it was important for me to also put together a design firm that caters to managing clients that are mostly corporate. So we are not about designing houses. It was really more for working with big corporations. And early on, that's how we already developed it. That's why we're working with big developers, with large manufacturing companies, corporations, essentially. So it's not so deeply personal that we're doing mostly houses of so-and-so. So it became an important venue for our people to also work with large developers and do large townships, high-rises, big projects, interesting new buildings, new paradigms, new ways of doing things.
We would just like to ask, we are Cathy and Kuya Aldrich. How was your trip to Singapore? Like, ano yung mga experiences that you find very interesting?
I would love for Aldrich to speak first about it. Yeah.
So during our trip to Singapore, of course, it's a lot of learning because it's my first time in Singapore, and also first time kong ma-experience yung ganong klase ng good urban planning, magandang master plan for the city and for the community, and at the same time, very efficient yung public transport, yung mga systems nila doon. So, doon ako super na-amazed. Like, when I was in our Grab car, I was taking the video the whole time of the buildings, taking pictures, make sure it's all well documented. And of course, we met a lot of people since we are doing an outsourcing. And at the same time, I've learned so much about interacting with foreign clients and building connections with them kasi it's really important. It's all about your introduction. It's all about how you present yourself as a company and as a person so that they would be intrigued to partner with you. And then at the same time, meeting also with different cultures of people kasi hindi lang naman Singaporeans yung nakatira dun sa place. It's a multicultural country. And at the same time, may chance din ako to reunite with a batchmate of mine from the competition, from the international competition that I've joined before. So that was really fulfilling and very rewarding at the same time.
You mentioned public transport. What do you think is like the biggest thing that the Philippines could learn from school?
For me, the biggest thing that the Philippines could learn is prioritizing yung mass transport because currently in the Philippines, we are a very car-driven, car-centric community. And at the same time, we don't also prioritize yung mga greeneries, yung proper way of doing the curbs of the road, the sidewalks, the planting strip. So there is so much aspect in the urban planning and master planning that we can adapt. And other communities or townships right now in the Philippines are practicing that, but not as a whole wide scale na mas marami makapag-benefit. So if the government could apply that to the public spaces of the Philippines for the common people, for the working class, 'di ba? So magkakaroon tayo ng much better transport system and at the same time yung mga transit-oriented developments, sana yun yung mas maging focus na i-develop din ng government.
Nung college ka po ba, were you just commuting to school or other?
Nung at first, actually, nung first year ako, I was commuting. And then, my parents noticed na I got burned out kasi ang tagal nung travel time. And sa travel time mo, hindi ka naman din masyadong nakakapahinga. So, after a few months, they decided na mag-rent kami ng dorm. And then, I rented a dorm nearby. At first, it was here in Intramuros para walking distance na lang. And then, after nung pandemic, we rented somewhere in Taft. So, I use public transport every day. And I would say that since I'm in Taft, accessible siya to LRT. So, I take LRT for a faster route during that time, which I say is mas efficient siya and mas mabilis as compared to other types of transportation.
So, you mentioned din yung pandemic. Syempre, yung pandemic, it was like a sudden shift na biglang from face-to-face classes, biglang online. Diba? So, what do you think is like the main challenge that you have to overcome through the shift?
Feeling ko yung the main challenge that I had to overcome is delineating the space between your rest time and your study time. Because at that time, everyone was shocked and then our spaces became blurred since our bedrooms or our sala, living rooms became our work areas. So we had to convert our spaces and at the same time convert our mindset na during school hours, you really have to focus. You need to listen to your profs when you have online lectures, ganyan. So, yun yung for me naging challenging and medyo naging adjustment siya at that time. Pero over time, na-overcome naman siya and mas naka-adapt lahat. And at this stage, mas nagiging broad na yung options natin to learn because when there are calamities, ganyan, or when there are sudden emergencies, we can have options for online mode of learning.
How about architect? How did you manage PDB architects during the lines of
It was very interesting to go through the pandemic because, number one, it was global. And you know that what you were facing was real. And everyone around the world was experiencing the same setbacks, the same difficulties, the same challenges. And yet, there were opportunities. it was also a great time to be at home. My husband and I enjoyed it because we were together in 1 year, 365 days. And then at some point, we also needed to travel. That was when the difficulties were. First of all, if you had to travel domestically, there were checkpoints where you needed to show a pass. And then internationally also, it was even more challenging. My husband's an American and we needed to go to the US to check on his mother, who needed to be transferred to a care home facility for the aged. And I remember entering a plane where you were almost in full battle gear. So I had even asked a fashion designer friend of mine to create a suit for me. And it was funny, but later on you realize that we would have problems on Zoom, maybe on connecting, or the fact that you cannot see people face to face. But other people had bigger problems. They faced sickness, they faced death. And it was also a good time for you to put into perspective what we in architecture could do. And then going back to the trip, Singapore was one of the countries where they had a lot of first-hand victims, so to speak, because quite a lot of Filipinos, especially business people, who traveled to Singapore came back to the Philippines without knowing that they had acquired the virus. So this is where even Singapore learned that they themselves also needed to do something. And they reacted well. Just as they managed political will for their urban planning, for their transport, for their projects, they also acted quickly on how to respond to the healthcare issue. In our trip, Aldrich and I, you see, that was a business trip. I told Aldrich it was very important for him to have a state of mind because we will be meeting with architects whom we collaborate with. So either on existing projects or on future projects, it was nice for Aldrich to see how other architects and other architectural offices are. At the same time, I told him, when you're with me on a business trip, I promise you it will be fun. I also promise you that we will eat good food and that we will walk around and get to see and experience the city. Because travel for an architect, or for anybody for that matter, is very educational. It's part of the balance. So that's why in our office, when we interview people, we always ask, do you have a passport? Because many times we ask people, you have to go on a business trip. When? Tonight, you're going to be on a plane to Hong Kong. So we need people to always be ready. So it was nice because Aldrich prepared, he was very professional, and he was also a great navigator. So he found his way in the city right away because Singapore is easy to navigate through. And it was also nice because his friend, whom he met in the Asia Young Designers Awards, told him it would be great for you to experience the different modes of transport. Because when I was with him, we were always in a rush, going from one meeting to the other. We were always taking a Grab car. So then he was able to experience the train, right? The subway. And it was good because there you can also feel the pulse of the city. If you take the mode of transport that the citizens do. And it's one way for you to see how did they learn from the pandemic? How did they grow as a country? What are the 3 reasons now that Singapore is really going up again in terms of first world development? It was during the pandemic that the Singaporeans conceived of the jewel, that lovely place in the Changi airport. And then it was also then that they realized we will be more independent from Malaysia in managing our water. And then it was also then that they realized no matter how first world we are, we did not manage some of our healthcare issues well. So the transmission happened. People left Singapore with a disease and it spread to many countries like the Philippines. So they also learned. And just like us, they're also humans. But then they act fast. And their government responds quickly with solutions. So I think that was one of the lessons that we gained from them.
In the Singapore's advancement, technologies, transportation, Do you think we can do that here in the Philippines?
I think so, because we now have a generation of leaders, including young mayors, who understand and who are really dedicated to the welfare of the Filipino people.
So I think that being part teams just means that we have so many ideas that we can take. And since just relating to Master Rizal's whole kabataan ay pag-asa ng bayan. Tama ba?
Yes. And you know what's nice? Even the youth now have a voice. And what is wonderful about social media is it could be used for the good. Because you could be a change for the better. You know, in this current popular movie, Wicked, you know, you can be the change for good. And now that you have social media, you have the internet, you could use your voice to amplify what is good, what could be better, even ideas, even solutions. Instead of showing dancing or being physical or being superficial about looks, you could create strong messages. And I think the power of architecture, our love for the environment, and our general concept of wanting to not just build structures, but build people is one of the strongest messages that you, the youth, in the field of architecture, can do.
Then can we talk about I want to inspire the listeners. Can we talk about the challenges or failures that you have experienced throughout your journey in life? Like, Kuya Aldrich, do you have any failures that it's not always about success, right? So,
Of course, I've encountered a lot of failures in my life, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop. So, to give you an instance, in terms of plates, of course, may mga times na mababa yung grade na nakukuha ko. But then, iniisip ko sa sarili ko na I'm here to learn and I'm here to develop and hone my skills. So, it's not always about perfecting that grade that you aim for, regardless if you are aiming for, let's say, a Latin honor. And then for the competitions, I have this experience na I joined the AIDA competition in the first year, and then I wasn't shortlisted. But then I tried again the other year. And that's when I get to be the part of the top 10, and then the rest is history. So those failures, I turned them into inspirations. And then that catapulted me into the moment of redemption, let's say. So, ayun.
college really humbled you, right? Kasi as an overachiever from elementary, high school, then being here you will experience failures, and that's when you embrace the love or the passion in architecture. How about mechanical? What's failures?
Failure will never leave your door, even when you are practicing, even as you're older, even as you think you are successful, whether it's success financially, or success in terms of stature, or success in the profession with your name, there will still always be failure. Failure to meet a deadline, failure to meet a client's expectations, failure to meet the demands, failure of an associate. It's all part of it. But once again, the same attitude that happens with you when you are a child walking and tumbling down, or when you're in college and you get discouraged by a professor, or you get a bad grade on a play, it will still happen. It will never leave your door. But it's how you react to it. It's how you rise from it. It's how you utilize the failure and remember the lessons that will indeed bring you to the top. When you talk to an architect and then they tell you, oh, I've never failed. I have never not met a deadline. I have never disappointed a client. I have never had a problem in a construction site. It's almost unreal. It's like a seasoned traveler bragging, oh, I am such a frequent jet setter and international traveler. I have never had a delayed flight. I have never had lost luggage. When you are a frequent traveler, when you are a jet setter, it's impossible. There must have been a flight that you missed, a canceled flight because of a snowstorm, a diverted flight, a lost luggage. It happens. And that's part of being human. That is the journey. Because the journey is not always the destination, the journey is the process. And it is so hurting when you fail. It breaks you. It kills you. It shatters you inside and out. It's nerve-wracking. And that's where you have family. That's when you have friends. And that's when you have your inner self. And that's also when you have faith. And with faith, you have hope. And with a good team around you, and with a good family and a good set of friends to support you, we lift you up. Because once again, I go back to my favorite analogy. It's not always building structures, it's building up people. That's why the name of our company is People Design Places. People before were asking me, Cathy, why don't you just make it Cathy Saldaña and Associates? C. Saldaña and Associates. I remember 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I came up with a name. At first, PDP stood for Pinnacle Design Professionals because in 1997, I was in New York City. I was going through some health crisis, but I also emerged from it triumphant. I had cancer in 1997. I went to the top hospital in the world, the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And I remember walking after the checkup. And to me, it was always about looking up, but being sure that you won't step on unstable ground and you would break and fall and slip. You look up, but be certain where you're walking. And when you look up, you see all the pinnacles, you see all the spires, whether it's a modern piece of architecture or the old Empire State Building or the Chrysler Tower. And so I thought to myself, Pinnacle Design Professionals. But later on, we reincorporated it so that PDP stood for People, Design, Places. And then you realize that it's really all about people. And then along the way, the brand evolved so that it could be many things. It could be Project Design Professionals. It could be Projects Design Plus, because our profession now has a plus. Plus sustainability, plus management, and many other components of who we are. And that's what architecture is. It's an architecture plus. It's a course, a program, a background, a degree, an industry, a profession of plus. So that even if you fail and you have all those minuses, you keep looking at the plus, which is also positive, and you realize that even when you fail, you have to stand up. I'm from UP. I love that line of the basketball team. And interestingly, they won as champion. Nowhere to go but up. So it's like that positivity should always guide you. That positivity, just like you Mapúa students, you know, the perseverance of the #1 Filipino architect with a professional license of 1, Tomas Mapúa. I'm sure he failed. I am sure he also hurdled difficulties and challenges. Can you imagine being the first to even go to the US and be trained? Or even understanding, how will I build this with little resources? Or, I'm the only architect. I'm the #1 architect. So there were not others that he could rely on. But for sure, he persevered. For sure, he stood up when he also failed. So those are the lessons we also have to remember. You have to rise. Nowhere to go but up. Stand up. Even when you fail.
Grabe, sobrang inspired.
Yeah. So, what's the thing that inspires you the most the most?
Well, thing that inspires me the most, doing things, this architecture. I mean, I have dreams. Like first of all, when I was young, uh, when nung naging architect, kapag naging architect, I think like Zaha did, you will recognize his structures, right? I want to be someone like her someday, na this is the building that I build. But as I start studying architecture, hindi ko na-realize na hindi ko kailangan ma-recognize sa building na to. Mas magiging successful tong building na to if it was, if for people, just if it was designed for people, and not just, para lang ma-recognize ako. Doon ko na-realize, na kung the importance of architecture. What about you, Sparks?
Yun naman. Siguro din. I commit kasi a lot, so I feel like, yeah, grabe, apat na sabay, first signal, that's mag-teaching, then, MRT, tas LRB. So, alam ko talaga yung pagka-hectic ng pag-home. And I think that, since alam ko nga yung problems from transportation and Philippines, I think that it's something that I would want to focus on in the future, specifically on urban planning day. Kaya, I mean, it wouldn't just help me, it will help the whole Philippines. Not just, let's say, yung aesthetics of it, also na din yung economy, and so much more.
I also want to ask Architect Cathy, as you're one of the most recognized women in the field of architecture. So, which is it is dominated by male, especially back then. So, how did you navigate or overcome these challenges in an industry dominated by?
I think it was all about exhibiting strength and showing to people, both men and women alike, that being female is not a hindrance, but could be an advantage in the way you think, in the way you empathize, in the way you manage people, in the way you manage a site. And that you also help amplify and strengthen that voice, not just for me, but for all the women in our industry. It's important for them to know that, sure, you get married, sure, you have children, you take care of the family, but you also have that responsibility to nurture your own career. And I believe I have been mentoring quite a lot of women for them to have not just that career, but also to have that voice.
Since this is about the impact of inspiration, we are here to inspire us. But I just want to ask, what inspires you? Who inspires you? Expect reality.
For me, what inspires me or who inspires me, of course, you would trace it back to where you started. So, syempre, first, I would say that it's by faith, and then by family, and then by the people that surrounds you. Kasi those kinds of things makes up your life. So those kinds of things makes you grounded to be more human, to remind you of who you are, of why you started this dream, and why you started what you've been doing right now.
Tama. So, there's a quote na saying na parang diba? You are who surrounds you. So, parang, it's the people around you that makes you up. Like, you're part of who you are na din. And, kasi, you've been with them for like, quite some time na din. So, yeah. And then, Eric, how about you na?
What inspires me? Who inspires me? Who is behind me? Once again, faith. Just like what Aldrich said, the team that we have, Aldrich included, the excellence and the industriousness of the team. And of course, my circle of family and friends. My husband is so supportive. He is very secure. He encourages me. He even said, "You don't even have to change your name." Because on Instagram, my name is Cathy Saldaña 𝗜𝗍𝗃. It bears my American last name. But professionally, even in my BRC license, even when I sign plans, or when I speak in conferences, it's always just Cathy Saldaña. So I was featured in the book 100 Women Architects in Practice, and I'm the only Filipina there. So my husband was so excited because he purchased 6 books right away and had it mailed to our house in New York. It was published by the Royal Institute of British Architects in 2024. He looked right away and then he saw, oh, it's Cathy Saldaña. That's perfect because that's really your brand. And I loved how strong and secure he was that he didn't even say, how come you didn't put Siegel? No, he's not like that. So he's so encouraging. And then, you surround yourself with people who applaud you, who do not question you, who do not try to put themselves ahead of you or skip your steps and undercut you or overtake you. You travel with people who walk alongside you, who laugh with you also after you've reached a deadline, who celebrate with you after a successful client pitch or a presentation, but who also quietly sip coffee with you when I think we lost that project, right? They didn't call us back anymore or something. So, it's part of being human. But this journey is also all about who you are with. And I think it's important for you students in Mapua to choose who will your first mentors be? Who will your associates be? Who will your friends be? Who will also support you? Who will you study the board exams with? Who will your thesis mates be? When you're doing your thesis, whether it's individual or group, surround yourselves with good people. At my age, that's my prayer now. Before, it was never my prayer. It was when I was younger, dear God, find me a good boyfriend. Things like that. It was so shallow and silly. It was young. But as you grow older, you realize when you are surrounded with good people, you're also surrounded with great opportunities. You're also surrounded with excellent results. People who also build you up, just as you build them. See, I keep going back to that theme because that's who we are. And I think that's what people should be.
So it seems like you are successful in career and you're also successful in life.
Oh my God, it wasn't like that at first. Okay, a little chica time. I have about 10, no, maybe 20 years ago. I remember speaking in a conference, and there was a young lady, an architect, who had just graduated, said, Architect Cathy, you're my idol. I want to follow all your footsteps. Thought Bubble 2004. I said, in my thought bubble, dear God, please don't let her follow all my footsteps because I failed in my first marriage. I was not lucky. I was not fortunate. It happens to the best of us. And so that's why whenever I advise young people now, I always say, choose once, but choose well. Because annulment is hard. Okay? And professional fights are hard. So choose your partners wisely. So, and I remember telling, dear God, dear universe, please take care of her. So that's fun. But yes, I did remember that 20 years ago. And from the failures, even on a personal life, I've managed to succeed and now I'm very, very happily married. I remarried.
So, that woman, do you think that you left some sort of legacy on her?
Yes, I remember that because she was about to give up. But I know that she relentlessly pursued. And to me, even in an audience of 10, if I only at least help one person, one young architect not to give up, or one young woman to choose a balance, the balance of family, balance of work, and having it all, I know I've succeeded in inspiring. Because it's possible. You can have it both.
I know we have a lot of things to talk about, but still, for the final words, can you give some words of wisdom or quotes for our listeners? Yeah,
Okay, so words of wisdom for me to give to our listeners to be more inspired is that do something that you've never done, but do it right. Because there's so much about having this mindset of perfectionism, of our vision of ourselves that we want to happen, but when it fails to happen, we become disappointed and we become consumed by all of these negativities. So for me, it's all about finding the right balance and also making sure that you experience every step because once you experience that, you will never go back. You will just remember it as a lesson and then continue to move forward.
I think Kuya Aldrich is right. Kasi perfectionism tends to, yeah, perfectionism tends to like, hold, give us a, like, it stops us from doing things that we want to try. Kasi there's a lot of times that when I do new things, overthink ko agad yung mga things. So, ayun, parang feel ko, ayaw ko muna simula hanggat hindi pa maayos yung overall concept, yung thoughts, ganun. Kaya I think it's best pa din na we just do things and try to fix things along the way.
Architecture is not just about drawing. It's also the eloquence of design thinking. It's also all about being expressive. Narratively, meaning every architect has to write well. Verbally, every architect has to speak well. Whether it's in your native dialect or in English, it's important for you to have a voice. Thirdly, an architect has to express creative graphically. Your thoughts must already be understood in one drawing. And when you master those three levels of eloquence, narrative, graphical, and verbal, you can really be a successful architect. And always remember to not give up. Sometimes, oh my goodness, this civil engineering course, structural design is so hard. Why is this important? Or why do I really need to learn English or higher English? It's all part of your training. Our course is one of the most difficult globally. You can ask fellow architects in London or in the US, in Singapore or in Hong Kong. It's hard. It's not an easy degree to finish. But our training could be used for the future, for many fields, without losing sense of what architecture is. So you're going to go through a rigorous process, but it's going to train you for bigger things.
Alright, so I hope everyone would have at least some learnings and kasi very insightful talaga yung mga sinabi ni Cathy and Kuya Aldrich. And yeah, so
we want to give you our certificates for.
thank you. Yeah.
Small token. Small token. Okay. This for Cathy.
This is for you.
Thank you. And
For Kuya Aldrich. Thank you. You guys can open the bag.
Yes. UAPSA, Mapúa students, this is for you. I hope that you will learn the lessons. And I hope one day, when you're very happy about your field of architecture, you listen to this podcast. Or one day, when you're sad and frustrated, just listen to this podcast.
This is from the rebrand.
thank you, bro. Viva Mapúa.
Very nice. Thank you. I love Mapúa.
So, this was a energy game. Our Mapúa. Yeah, something.
Thank you. See you again. It's not bye. See you again.
Thank you.
So, maka-invite mo namin kayo sa mga seminar talks ko.
Sure. And I realized that the Mapúa bus is already boarded up right now. One reason to come back. And I have a picture with the bust of 𝗏𝗂.
Yeah. And
See you again.
Alright, see you again. So, to our listeners, see you again on the next UAPSA Train.
So, thank you guys for riding our train.
Thank you. See you on Instagram.
Thank you.
See you around the campus. See you wherever. See you in our company as interns, as young architects, and see you in the design profession.
when the morning